Around here especially, there's lease land is just impossible to find. You've got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who has the land to lease. I found y'all's ads online, on Facebook, and really started doing the research on it. Being able to run more cows on less acreage, and then what I liked about it was having to put out less hay. I was told beforehand that, to spread everything out, don't put your tub next to your water sources. You wanted to get cows to kind of move around to force them to work for it, basically. Right away, I noticed they were hitting it pretty heavy, but they ended up, it lasted right at 75, 76 days on 19 head with calves. So that was pretty great that I didn't have to put another tub out immediately right away. Within the first week, actually, I noticed they weren't cleaning up all 3 bales that I was putting out. By the 3rd week, it was down to, I was just putting out 2 bales of hay. And they were leaving a little bit. You could see a little bit left in the hay ring each week that I was leaving. Because last year, hay was $80 a roll. If you knock down a roll a week, that's over a month. That's $320 just over 1 month. Over 2 months, 3 months of a winter, that's almost $1,000. That's huge for especially a tiny operation like ours. Every little dollar counts. If you're feeding your cattle now and you don't have to do it every day because their cows stay in the same body shape, they stay fertile, they keep having calves, they do everything they're supposed to do, and you're not having to throw that extra bag of feed or whatever you're putting out. That's huge. That's peace of mind is really the biggest thing you can have. You get that with the tub. I'm now running 9 more cows on this property. Those 9 cows were moved from another property, and I haven't even had cows on that other property in almost a year now. Just because the Riomax, they let me have more grass. I'm feeding more cows on less acreage. I didn't plant ryegrass this year. I haven't had to feed. I'm actually feeding less hay than I was last year at the same time on 40 less acres of ground. That's massive. If you can't see that as a savings, then you're in the wrong business. In the previous years, with what we were feeding, the cows were, I never let them get bony, super drawn down. They do have to work for what they've got. But I was always having a supplemental feed. We had mineral out, we had protein tubs out in years past. I was always making sure they had something to eat, and they would still look in this same condition. This year, like I said, I didn't plant ryegrass, didn't really feed them any kind of supplemental feed. They're eating less hay, they're on less acreage. And it was the last month or so has been a pretty brutal winter. So to see them in the same body condition, having put a whole lot less in them, is very telling, very telling. Going from used to seeing big stacks of just piles of manure, you can tell the product's working when it goes from this to just nothing, and it washes away a whole lot easier. Before you could see the grains of grass, now it's like a paste. There's nothing in it. So you can tell their gut is a whole lot more efficient. The other day I was out here cleaning up, we were tearing down some fence, and the cows just they were laying out for 3, 4, 5 hours. And with this little bit of grass, you would think, hey, they would need to be out there hustling, working, getting their feed. They were just laying out, chilling. They were content. That right there will tell you that they're doing something right. If they're not up and eating and hungry all the time, they're getting all that they need nutrient-wise. If you go and look at the label on the tub, and you start comparing it to other mineral tubs, protein tubs, whatever, and you can look at all the ingredients and realize it's a whole lot more in there compared to other tubs, which makes sense. They don't have to lick it as much, they don't have to eat as much of it to get the same nutrients that they need, the same minerals, vitamins, minerals, whatever they need. Our creep feeder here holds about 600 pounds. In years past, 8, 9, 10 calves, they would go through 600 pounds of creep within a week and a half. With the Riomax, I'm filling it like once a month. That is a massive difference. You go from feeding 600 pounds a week at $11 a bag, that's $120. You go from feeding that once a week to once a month, that's $360 a month in savings right there. That almost pays for the tub itself. I can say it's worth the shot because I know how much money we've saved and how much money we're ahead because of the tub. I'm running 9 more cows on the same acreage. I could only over 12 years I could only ever put 18, 19 cows on. I'm now running 27, 28, with their calves year round. I've got 40 acres that I haven't touched in a year because of it. We're now going to be able to add 10 more head. 10 more head to a big operation may not seem much, but when you've only got 40 cows, you add 10 more, that's massive. That's another, 20%? I mean, that's 25% more cows. So you do the same amount of work and you get 25% more cows. That's pretty massive. Basically 25% more profit.